It was a moment that people had been waiting months to see. Russians fleeing from their trenches around Bakhmut as Ukrainian troops charged forward. Ukrainian soldiers drove the Russians back more than a mile on Russia's Victory Day. Among the first to cheer their success was Colonel General Syrsky, the Ukrainian commander who, his advocates say, could eventually earn a spot among the greatest generals in history. Whether the advances turn out to be part of Kyiv's long-awaited counterattack remains to be seen. But as the commander of Ukraine's ground forces, General Syrsky has already masterminded two of Ukraine's most improbable victories: the counterattack out of Kharkiv and the defense of Kyiv. Now, the general who earns just £14,000 a year and drives a 2017 Renault Megane has been overseeing the defences on Ukraine's eastern front line, including the bloody Battle of Bakhmut. This is the story of one of Kyiv's best commanders who has brought death and defeat to Russian forces up and down the length of Ukraine. When Putin's army stormed across the Ukrainian border on February the 24th last year, General Syrsky was waiting for them. Tasked with protecting Kyiv, the 57-year-old had spent weeks planning the defense, even though nobody, himself included, believed the Russians would actually try to take the city. Born in Russia and a student of Moscow's best military academy before he came to Ukraine in the 1980s, Syrsky knew how Putin's generals thought. He knew they would try to advance down the main highways to the capital, so devised a defensive line running through the outskirts in places like Bucha, Irpin and Hostomel that would keep Putin's devastating artillery out of range of Kyiv. Short on men, he gobbled together his own artillery brigades using guns from training centres and deployed them near the highways so they could ambush Russian armoured columns. He then ordered aircraft and anti-air defences to disperse from their main bases in case Russia targeted them with missiles, which Putin's troops duly did on the first day of the war. Because of that decision, Syrsky had anti-air batteries operational to shoot down Russian helicopters as they tried to storm in to Hostomel airfield. He also had artillery guns to crater the runway so Putin's generals could not land reinforcements there. Outnumbered 12-1, Syrsky knew his men could not beat Putin's in open combat, and so he resorted to the art of surprise to lure them into killing traps. One of these was caught on camera in Kyiv's eastern suburbs as a Russian armoured column ploughing towards the capital down one of the highways was slammed by artillery fire. 19 vehicles were destroyed in that ambush, including one carrying the unit's commander, and Putin's men never again attempted an attack on Kyiv from the east. Another series of ambushes by partisan groups under Syrsky's command then helped obliterate a 40-mile-long convoy of death advancing on Kyiv from the west. Faced with a possible Russian breakthrough of the defensive line at Moshen, it was Syrsky's decision to blow up a nearby dam and flood the area that stopped the advance. There is little doubt that Syrsky's command saved the city, and he was duly awarded the Hero of Ukraine by President Zelensky. But the general's war was only just getting started. Next, he was sent eastwards to Kharkiv, where the Battle of the Donbass was already in full swing. For Syrsky, this was a return to home turf. He commanded Ukraine's armies in the region after Putin's 2014 invasion, and it was here that he won his first medal for exceptional duty. Back then, Ukraine's forces were being pushed out of their industrial heartlands by Russian proxy groups, and when Syrsky returned, they were again retreating. It was left to him to mastermind the fight back. Using a much-anticipated counterattack on Kherson in the south of Ukraine as cover, Syrsky devised a plan to smash through Russian defences in the north. He conducted a series of probing attacks on the Russian front line and uncovered a weak spot near the city of Balaklia. Syrsky then hand-picked men and equipment for existing brigades to create rapid attack units before launching a surprise assault in early September. The attack was so successful, it even caught Syrsky off guard. Just 3 days after the attack began, Balaklia was in Ukrainian hands, and Syrsky was filmed raising a flag over the city while predicting the fall of Kupiansk and Izium, which were captured shortly after. With Putin's forces broken and in full retreat, the general gave his men permission to overrun their original objectives and pursue the Russians as far as they could chase them. In the end, the attack was only stopped when Putin ordered Russia's first military mobilization since World War II and rushed thousands of poorly trained men to the front. In just a few days, Syrsky and his men recaptured 5,000 square miles of territory and hundreds of towns and cities in what remains Ukraine's best offensive to date. Then came the defense of Bakhmut, a crossroads city in the Donbass. Analysts agree it has little significance on its own, but is an important waypoint on the road to capturing the entire region. As such, Putin has made taking it his absolute priority, and Ukraine has piled men in to defend it. The result has been a bloodbath that has seen some of Ukraine's supporters question whether it was all worth it. General Syrsky gave those arguments short shrift back in March when he called the defence a military necessity, and he now looks set to prove his critics wrong. Having bled Wagner forces dry for the last several months, Ukrainian troops launched a counterattack on their flanks in early May. Syrsky said his men waited until the exhausted mercenaries rotated away from the front and were replaced by less experienced units before they attacked. The result was a rapid advance on either side of the city, which reversed weeks of steady losses and left Wagner's leader Yevgeny Prigozhin raging. He went so far as to threaten to pull his men off the line completely, and even appeared to brand Putin a dickhead. For his own part, Syrsky called the operation a partial success and said that the defense of Bakhmut would continue. After months of grinding attritional warfare, the Bakhmut offensive gave a tantalizing taste of what could be in store for Russia once Ukraine's counterattack gets fully underway. Just 5 people are said to know the plans, and it is perhaps no surprise that General Syrsky is thought to be one of them. While few details of the operation have been given away, it was Syrsky himself who suggested that Bakhmut could be the focus of the attack back in March. Whether or not the recent assault counts as the opening gambit of that operation, or simply a diversion, remains to be seen. Syrsky is known as a master of deception and has already caught the Russians off guard once. He will certainly try to do so again in the coming months. Ukraine and its supporters will now be hoping to see the scenes from Bakhmut playing out all along the 600-mile front this summer. President Zelensky believes his armies can recapture the whole of their country, up to and including Crimea. Western analysts still doubt whether that is possible. But with commanders as skilled as General Syrsky in charge, you wouldn't want to bet against them pulling it off. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this on the ongoing war in Ukraine.